We received a great question slash comment about Qualcomm yesterday. And I thought, you know what? This is a topic we have not addressed in a standalone video and not something I've commented on for quite some time. And this is regarding Qualcomm's IoT or Internet of Things segment. So specifically, the comment was about a last video I did on Qualcomm where I said automotive would be the primary growth driver for now, even though this is a very, very small segment for Qualcomm at the moment. But why wouldn't Qualcomm's IoT segment, which is a much larger percentage of revenue, why wouldn't that be a more immediate term driver of growth? Let me break it down. Before continuing, let me remind you to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if this video is helpful as you do your own investment research and increase your knowledge of business and technology. We really appreciate the support as subscribing to the channel helps us continue putting out content like this. Let me show you what we're even talking about here first to start off. So this is Qualcomm's QCT segment, which makes up the bulk of their revenue. Basically, this is chip sales, a sale of actual chips that Qualcomm designs that generates the bulk of their revenue. And as you can see, handsets or smartphones still the primary sales generator for Qualcomm. 6.1 billion in their latest quarter, down 17% year over year. Automotive, though, which has been a pretty consistent, fast and consistent growth driver for the last couple of years, up 20% to 447 million. So still a very, very small area for Qualcomm, but a fast growing one that I think is going to continue to grow. This is based on Qualcomm's most latest guidance. Plus, Qualcomm just announced that they are acquiring Israeli startup Autotalks. We will get some more info on that soon, I'm sure. So this is the area where I think Qualcomm will continue to grow. And then IoT, though, of course, Qualcomm lumps all sorts of stuff in here. It could be smartwatches, earbuds, Meta's VR headset, industrial equipment. But interestingly, Qualcomm also lumps in laptops. Qualcomm does make some chips for some laptop computers, as well as wireless connectivity chips for laptops. But you can see here down 24% year over year. This segment, IoT, is kind of in the same boat at the moment as smartphones. We are still coming off of the absolute boom in consumer purchasing from early in the pandemic. And so everything from smartphones to PCs to laptops are down in the dumps right now. Qualcomm CFO Akash Palkhiwala did say that there would be some sequential improvement in IoT at a mid-single digit percentage rate. So let's say 1.5, $1.6 billion in sales. But bear in mind that IoT revenues the same quarter last year were actually closer to $2 billion. So this segment is still going to be in year over year decline. Meanwhile, automotive still expected to be up year over year by a healthy upwards of 20% year over year, I think, revenue increase expected in the next quarter. So automotive still, in my opinion, going to be the lone area of growth for Qualcomm in the next couple of quarters. However, there was a really important point made by a viewer on that last Qualcomm video. Specifically, Qualcomm has been working with Microsoft on ARM-based chips for laptops. Now, this could be a very big deal. So ARM-based chips, of course, are the type of processors that power our smartphones. And it's also the type of processor that Apple moved away to. They moved away from Intel a few years ago and debuted the Apple M series chips, the M1 and the M2 that power the MacBook. And MacBook, to put it simply, the performance, the battery life, it just absolutely blows away x86 processors for laptop. So x86, if you don't know what I'm referring to, are chips designed by Intel and AMD. Now, Apple has been picking up some market share in this department since they debuted that M series chip a few years ago. So, pre pandemic, Apple's market share of shipments at the end in the fourth quarter of every year during the busy holiday shopping season was anywhere from roughly 6 to 7%. But since 2020, I'm just going to rattle off the Apple market share of PC and laptop shipments. Q4 2020. This comes from tech researcher IDC. Apple 8% market share. Q4 2021 8.2%. Q4 2022 jumps all the way to 11.2%. Now that has come back down closer to 7% since then to kick off 2023. But again, remember, all PC and laptop sales, including for Apple, absolutely clobbered right now. But for Apple, the good news is their percentage market share of shipments each quarter is still far above what it was pre-pandemic. And I think it's that M series chip that has a lot to do with this. Basically, what Apple did is they took everything that's great about their mobile processors that power the iPhone and blew it up, made it big enough and powerful enough that it can power the MacBook, but you still get all of the efficient performance that we expect from mobile. Basically, they took the mobile experience, moved it over to the MacBook, and so now that leaves Windows, Microsoft, uh, left needing a response, and it looks like they are turning to Qualcomm. So this is something that CFO Akash Palkawala mentioned to me in conversations a couple of times last year. And Qualcomm has been getting increasingly vocal about this on their public earnings calls as well. It sounds like some of those initial Windows ARM processors powered by Qualcomm ARM processing chips, because remember, Qualcomm, the other dominant force in ARM mobile processors for the Android smartphone market, is looks like they have been successful in basically doing the same thing Apple did, taking everything that's great about the ARM mobile chips in high-end smartphones, migrating that over to something that works for the laptop market. Now, this is precisely why we think Intel is in trouble. Intel, 50% of their sales come from PC these days, so they really need that PC market to make a comeback. But as it does, it sounds like there could be Qualcomm ARM chips ready to go, ready for sale in 2024. This is going to, we think, throttle what Intel can recover in the coming years. And also a key reason why we think AMD pivoted away with the purchase of Xilinx, pivoted away from the consumer markets to focus more on enterprise markets, business markets. Also, AMD made the acquisition of a company called Pensando that designs not x86 processors, but ARM processors for data centers. So the world is making a slow migration over to the ARM processor ecosystem away from the legacy x86 ecosystem that has been dominated by the Intel AMD duopoly for decades. But back to the original point here, I'm just going to show you the same slide as before. Based on Akash Palkawala's guidance for the next quarter, handset revenue expected to be roughly flat quarter over quarter at about 6.1 billion. That means we're looking at another maybe 15 to 17% year over year decline in smartphone sales in Q3 fiscal 2023. Flat quarter over quarter automotive revenue at roughly 450 million. flat quarter over quarter, but on a year over year basis, we're looking at an upwards of 20% growth rate. And of course, that does not include the recent acquisition of Autotalks. And then IoT expected a slight sequential increase. Let's call it 1.6 billion in revenue for IoT. That would be a nice sequential improvement, but again, on a year over year basis, probably looking at around 20% year over year decline for that IoT segment at Qualcomm. So, for I think at least the next 2 quarters, automotive remains the sole growth driver for Qualcomm, both organically and also because of the Autotalks acquisition. IoT does excite us. This is one of the reasons we are bullish on Qualcomm long term. We think Qualcomm could pick up market share in the PC and laptop market at Intel and AMD's expense in the coming years as they work with Microsoft to get those ARM chips, all the power efficiency and great performance that we expect from our mobile devices into a PC and laptop format. We think that is fantastic news for Qualcomm, but that IoT segment probably going to be in decline for at least the next quarter or two, along with smartphones. So, longer term thing to look forward to for Qualcomm. Be patient with this one. Yes, the stock is cheap, but at the moment, it's cheap for a reason. The company has to get this excess inventory of smartphones and PCs and laptops behind it in the rearview mirror before a fully fledged recovery can take place.